Chapter 3 will cover the criterion of culture environment for ASC. Firstly, we need to define what is the ASC certified. In full text, ASC means Aquaculture Stewardship Council. So this is a certification for protection of surrounding ecosystems and biodiversity. So we previous chapters we talked about aquaculture systems and then management and water quality management in those systems. So to raise up the fish in aquaculture systems, as I mentioned earlier, we will have to keep really good water quality in those systems. In terms of the fish welfare and maximizing production at the same time. So ASC certification is dealing with the more likely water quality or the environmental concerns out of the fish farm. So if when the previous topic covered the management stuffs in systems, but ASC for the ASC certification, we will have to more care about the water quality and pollution issues out of aquaculture systems. So this certification program designed for the sustainable aquaculture, so which means we will have to consider production at the same time environmental impact of aquaculture business into the public water. So another point of view for ASC certification is to secure the healthy food. So this certification is actually encouraging customers' engagement to healthy and environmentally friendly shift consumption. So by doing so, we can make sure transparent markets considering the environment and also the aquaculture production by performing the traceability. By doing so, actually, we can also enhance producers' images with trustworthy product. So these systems and the certification was co-funded by Worldwide Fund for Nature and also the Netherlands company IDH, in other words, the Sustainable Trade Initiative. So this is the international certification system for environmentally sustainable fisheries in aquaculture. So nowadays, we can consider only production, but also environmentality and sustainability. Otherwise, in the future, it might be difficult to continue the aquaculture business without consideration of impact of aquaculture into the water. So not only producing fish, but whenever you develop your own policy for aquaculture, so you have to put that element to policy making as well in production activity too. So far, there are many species being certified by ASC certification program. In worldwide abalone, there are 31 farms certified, and as you can see the figures, and there are a bunch of different types of the fish species certified. So mostly shrimp farms has been certified quite a bit. So total certified farms are like 1,316 farms. In assessment, farm in assessment is 638 farms. I believe that there are more farms and fishes will be joining this type of certification program uh, for, uh, for sustainability. This figure shows up the certified production volume by standard. So abalone, shellfish, catfish, and salmon, and some other species, all the way to the rainbow trout. So total volume of production certified is about 2 million tons so far. This shows up the certified farm site trend by standard over up to the 2020 year. So abalone, bivalve, catfish, salmon, all the way down to the rainbow trout. You can see the increment. Each species certified, the number of those certified farm sites has been increasing dramatically. So that means more farmers and the nations try to join this type of certification, and in the future, without this kind of certification, it might be difficult to export to other countries from aquaculture activities. So this figure shows up the major countries going with the ASC's certification programs. The top nation is Chile, and the second one is Norway, and then the third one is Vietnam, so all the way down to Australia. So I believe that in the future more countries are gonna be joining, and basically in Korean aquaculture business sector also try to join this type of programs. So in Chile and Norway, those are the major countries to produce the salmon. So the more likely the salmon is kind of representative species going with ASC certification. So there were to look at the what kind of things we have to consider in terms of the water quality or the environmental management stuff for ASC certification. There are seven principles when you want to be certified with your aquaculture product. They will have to follow up the process, and then there are seven principles you have to follow up, and for that you will have to prepare your own documents, and you will have to keep all the record for those kind of certification. Firstly, looking at the principles, the first one is compiled with all applicable national laws and local regulation. So that principle need you for prove there are proper regulations and laws are in place in your nation on aquaculture production. The second one is conserve natural habitat, local biodiversity, and ecosystem structures and functions. As I mentioned earlier, the ASC certification is more caring about the environmental impact from the aquaculture. So they have some of the criteria you have to follow, and you have to keep all the time for this kind of certification. So we're gonna talk about a little bit later about this, because mainly these principles is more related to the water quality parameters on the water quality management in terms of aquaculture production. The third one is to protect the health and genetic integrity of wild population. It cares about the origin of your fish and how to how well care about your fish in genetical way, or the some of the infect to natural water body from the SK fish. That sort of stuff is related to this principle. The fourth one is use resources in on environmentally efficient and responsible manner. And then fifth one is manage disease and parasite in on environmentally responsible manners. And you can see that the sixth and seventh principles. As I said, the second principle is more related to our topic, and some of the criterion in fourth and fifth principles are also related a little bit to this topic. So we will extract those criterions, and then we're going to look at later, right after. As I mentioned earlier, the second principle is more applicable to the topic we are talking about. So in the table, you can see the sum of criteria for benthic biodiversity and benthic effects. So mainly ASC certification is caring about pollution to environment. That's why they are considered really important. Some of the level of the sulfide levels in sediment around the aquaculture systems. As you can see, there is some of criteria. So mainly the indicator for the sulfide levels in sediment it is redox potential. So if you have a lot of solid material going out to environment, eventually it will settle down to the sediment around the aquaculture systems. So if you have lots of accumulation of solid material on the bottom, so you're gonna have anaerobic conditions in the sediment. So as you have a more anaerobic conditions, you're gonna have higher redox potential. So ASC certification requires sedimentation potential. Redox potential is sediment in sediment will have to be lower than 1,500 microohms per liter, or any also another requirement is no significant difference in redox potential or total free sulfide levels in sediment at the edge of AGE in comparison to control site. So another indicator for ASC certification in terms of the topic in this chapter is also some of the water quality or the quality parameters are related. So the first one is the weekly average saturation percentage of dissolved oxygen on farm should be higher than 70% in terms of the saturation point. And the second one is a maximum percentage of weekly samples from the previous section. That falls under 2 milligram per liter in DO is 5%. That is a requirement. So also quarterly recording of ammonia nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen and total phosphorus levels on the farm and at reference site you will have to provide that kind of record too. So and also evidence that types of biocide used in net anti-fouling are approved according to legislation in the European Union in United States, Australia, or Japan, you will have to provide that kind of evidence too. And then they also care about the pond effluent because in effluent there are lots of waste material going out to the natural water body, and it can induce the pollution. So there are some of the criteria or requirement in terms of the biological oxygen demand. In short, BOD. BOD should be lower than 30 milligram per liter average and no higher than 50 milligram per liter. So the maximum allowable is 50 milligram per liter, but the average number should be lower than 30 milligram per liter in BOD. And also total suspended solid is one of the important indicators, and it is also similar. It has also similar requirement as a biological oxygen demand. So in average, 30 milligram per liter, but the maximum should not be higher than 50 milligram per liter. So a total ammonia nitrogen standard for it all the time. It should not be higher than 1.5 milligram per liter. In average, it should be lower than 1 milligram per liter. So, which is quite a tight standard or requirement. So also you will have to provide the evidence that all non-dietary chemicals used on the farm that are discharged to effluent are recorded and quantified. Without that kind of evidence you provide, you might be having difficulty to have a ASC certification. The next one is about the specific conductance or chloride concentration of sludge prior to disposal outside the farms, because sludge from the seawater fish farm can have a high content of minerals in the water and in sludge. When it is discharged to freshwater zone or the soil, it can ruin the soil and ecosystems in the freshwater. So you have to make sure there is no such a high content of in the salt or the minerals in discharge water. So water specific conductance or chloride concentration in freshwater wells used by the farms or located on adjunct properties, you will have to keep a certain level of the conductance. For example, for freshwater well, specific conductance may not exceed 1,500 millihouses per centimeters. For the principal force, criterion 4.5 is related to our topic. So criterion 4.5 considers about waste management and pollution control. So you can see that some of the indicators from the 4.5.1 all the way to the 5. So you will have to provide those kind of evidence and then meet the requirement in those indicators. So also principle 5, one criterion is related to our topic, the chemicals and treatment. So also you will have to provide some of the evidence you are dealing with the chemicals and the treatment in a really good way in your farms. Otherwise, it might be difficult to go through the ASC certification. So ASC certification is not mandatory yet. So in the future, it might not be either. But however, that is kind of options quite a bit necessary for marketing your aquaculture product. So considering aquaculture production in volume So in the future, more likely you will have to consider sustainability. For that, taking care of your fish for more production in your pond, on your system, at the same time, you have to keep in mind you will have to take care of the water quality or any kind of pollution issues in surrounding waters around your fish pond. Thank you for listening my lecture. So SC certification is not mandatory yet. However, in the future, it might be a necessary option for better aquaculture and environment. So it is connected with the way for Cameroon government to develop the aquaculture business in the future. I believe that Cameroon has a really good potential to develop the aquaculture business. But at the time, what you have to consider is not only production but also sustainability. Worldwide, it has a kind of a trend for sustainable aquaculture. So without considering of the impact of aquaculture to environment, aquaculture business cannot be sustainable. So when you develop the aquaculture policy and regulation, I hope you can consider how to put the sustainability in the policy and regulation. Thank you.